So Pragya, anything you have in mind, any topic you wish to suggest to talk with?
Okay. So I believe like you guys wanted to start today's discussion with the last discussions that we happened to have on Sunday.
That last Sunday we were discussing gratitude. So is there something you wish to say further on it? There is anything from your side you want to start with?
Right. Like it's a kind of a feeling that I believe that like lot many times I was supposed to speak up, okay, to certain people in my life, starting from the early childhood and everything. But and I miss saying out these things at the right time. And once those people are gone forever from your life, for whatever reasons, you just happen to keep thinking that why exactly I was not able to say at that point in time. And once you started feeling this like consciously, so no matter even if some person is trying to help you out in the smallest possible way and all, by any kind of gesture as well, you do happen to recognize that and you do happen to talk about it. Like I'll give you an example of the recent things, like due to the COVID-19 and everything. Okay, except the security guards, nobody is into the office and all. Okay, so specifically the people who were there into the admin team of mine, okay, and the security guards and all. Since post the lockdown, I have been talking to them at least once in a week. Okay, that's what like I try to do with the other employees also, but not often that can happen. Okay, but with these people, I have been doing that, and I know that there is nothing that I can do much for them at this point in time except getting their salaries processed and all. Okay. So still like I am trying to offer my help that whatever ways I can do or anything as such, financially or anything as such. And now that is something that I actually feel gratitude towards. Okay. The security guards who are risking everything for them. Okay. And still managing to come to the office amidst all this. That's in a way, like I know that even if we are trying to help them out financially or anything as such, that's also not any kind of a big deal or any big thing that we are doing out for them. Okay,
Yes.
and in a way that like I wanted to do certain few more things which I am not able to do at this point in time. That there are certain more people living outside my society areas and premises who are the daily wage laborers and they're still continuing over here. They somehow could not get a chance to go back to their hometowns and all. Okay, I know that I am self-sufficient in order to help them out further. So if I'm doing that, that's not something kind of thing that, okay, fine, I am forced to do or somebody is asking me to do it and then I have to do it just for the sake of the society or kind of a helping hands or giving back to the community. But it's a kind of a gratitude, okay, fine. We are self-sufficient and we are just trying to help others who cannot afford basic simple necessities of life at this moment. And at times when I see these kind of videos, pictures and everything, people posting, okay, fine, they're trying to help and all, okay. It's not something that you have to showcase yourself and then it's not something that, okay, fine, that you're doing something good for the society or you're giving back to the community. You have to showcase those people into the social media. Because if somebody is doing something good for me, okay, and that person is showing it across onto his or her Facebook or LinkedIn profile and all, it's a kind of embarrassment for me.
And why is that?
See, at first moment when we are seeking help and all, okay, it's like that we have exhausted all our options and there's nothing as such apart from that particular person or the community who can help us out. And when we are seeking for some kind of a help and we are getting it in return, okay, it's not something that anybody would be comfortable, or that's my mindset, okay, that I would be comfortable going ahead and showing it across that, okay, I have sought any kind of help from this person, whatever means it is.
You think it will cause embarrassment for the person who is being helped?
Right.
Yeah. A lot of people would not like to be told that I got help or all that. Mostly these people are not also present on social media where this is publicized or they don't read or whatever. So they don't come to know what is happening. Definitely. At the same time, what when you said that you feel it's a kind of gratitude and you feel like doing it. There is this idea of acts of kindness, random acts of kindness. Have you heard about them?
I think so.
Yes, it's like anonymous people do for anonymous people. The random acts of kindness could be known also, but at the same time, there was this smile card movement in the US where what they did was that they used to have a smile card left at some place. Like for example, I pay for someone's tea on my side, someone sitting into tea, and I leave a smile card to say that okay, you pay this kindness forward. So then that person does something for someone else without knowing that you paid for it, or that person also doesn't tell that he or she is doing it for the third one. So this is also a sense of gratitude, no? That you were served out of kindness, and now you are serving out of kindness. So I feel a lot of people, when we promote, not necessarily they want reputation. There could be, of course, there's a set of people who want that. But there could be also people who want to inspire others to do it. And for this very reason, what you said, they invented this smile card thing, where nobody comes to know who did it and who received it. It's just that the act of kindness is the center point. Which is something I find very beautiful and powerful. Like it's a very powerful movement in the US. It's like across India also, it was quite, like at least when I used to be a part of this community, we did a lot of these activities. I think we end up doing it now all the time as the second nature, because we did it consciously for many years. It just happens that what you say, it just happens. You don't even come to know that you're doing it. You just do it and you even forget about it later. So yeah, so I feel kindness sprouts out of gratitude. But that's something that's true for me. I'm talking true to you. I don't know if it's always like that. But it could be also pity or something different. Or
can you repeat that a little? Like just what is the core message?
Okay. All right. Well, like when we were talking about the feeling of the gratitude and all, like I told you that at times that I did happen to feel the gratitude for certain people or certain incidents into my life. Okay. However, I was not able to express it at that point in time. And maybe this could be one of the reasons, okay, that I was not conscious at certain moments, at certain situations with certain people that they are doing any kind acts of gratitude towards me. Okay. And obviously, gratitude is something that you can feel into the smallest of the acts, and at times you don't even feel in the biggest of the acts also of certain people. That was one of the points. And secondly, like I was talking about that the recent, not only recent.
So I was saying that the first point you mentioned, did you want to say that you feel the gratitude, but sometimes you don't express it in time?
Right.
Okay. And the second point you were going to say, what was that?
Second point was that, like, continuing with the similar first point, okay, that like after this lockdown and everything has happened, okay, there has been certain people, professionally and the personal centers, both the sides, okay. I know that continuously they have been doing certain work with us, okay, or you can say certain things with us and somehow we were not so much conscious towards the same, moving ahead with the regular flow of life, that we never felt gratitude towards the same. And the example I happen to give you across in the office, if I talk about, were the security guards and everything as such, okay. And if I talk about the families, and I think that everyone happens to have played certain role into my life and where exactly I'm right now. But I never felt much in terms of the gratitude, or maybe saying them to directly about it, okay, due to any reasons. It was never intentional, okay, but unintentionally this was the scenario.
Do people express gratitude to you often?
Most of the time.
Okay. so you receive gratitude from others, they tell you and all that.
Right.
And when you say you don't feel that gratitude, what is it that come in your way?
I do not know. Maybe it's a kind of a consciousness that you do not happen to have, that some person is doing something for you without any kind of motives or without any kind of intentions. Okay. And you should actually feel gratitude towards the same. Okay. Does not matter how small that act is or does not matter how big that act is. But it's making an impact into your life.
What impact is it making?
You're continuously evolving as a person you are. Okay. So like changes are happening. Maybe you did not happen to realize these things earlier, but now realization is coming into the picture. If you would have spoken to me about the gratitude maybe when I was into my teenage, okay, I would never have said that, okay, fine, my family is doing something to work towards me, okay, evolving me as a person, or the society I have been living into, okay, or the people with whom I'm associated, they are making any kind of impact. But when I look at it now, it's a huge thing that has been done at that point in time. But I was not conscious at that moment that I can realize, okay, fine, that every person, every situation I am involved into is making me a next version of me. Maybe better, maybe bad. But yes, I am changing.
When did you become aware of this?
To be honest, when I moved out of my hometown, okay, and started my journey in Delhi, I did not have a job at that point in time. All right. So whenever I was going for the interview discussions, each and everything, okay, I happened to land up my first job after getting rejected into almost 50 to 60 interviews. And every time while I was returning after giving the interview, after wasting my complete day or so, and I was on the way to the home, I was talking to my parents and telling them that, okay, fine, this has happened today and everything. So they used to tell me that you happen to have the capability, you happen to have the caliber, so don't worry. Maybe this is not the right opportunity for you. Maybe something next is good to happen. And when you move out of a proper comfort zone, okay, where you did not happen to take the responsibilities of anything into your life, because my house was like that, okay, that every point in time, in terms of the household responsibilities, if I talk about, I never stepped into the kitchen till the time I was there, and I completed my graduation from there, okay. Secondly, outside responsibilities and everything, whatever was done, apart from my regular routine of the school and the tuitions, okay, I used to take tuitions also, certain kids at my home. And that was like their parents got separated, and those kids were like affected diversely with the complete situation and all, and they were somehow like transitioning from Hindi medium to English medium, okay. So it was very difficult for them to cope up with the entire syllabus and everything, a complete new system and complete new syllabus, a complete new place to start from scratch, okay. Their mother was into their 50s, okay, and she had an eldest kid who was married, and they both were the youngest one, and their father moved out. So it was a hard time for them to move ahead with the same, okay. So I was involved most of the time into their tuitions and my self-studies, and my younger like siblings were there, so I was helping them out in their studies also. But if you talk about the overall household responsibility, it was my mother who was to manage along with my father most of the times, okay. So when I moved to Delhi and I have to do each and everything on my own, okay, that you have to cook your food, you have to clean your place, okay, you have to clean your everything. All right. At the same time, you have to look out for the job hunt and everything. So at times I used to wonder how these people were managing so smoothly everything from so many years, and that too with so many people. So that's when the gratitude came into the picture.
And in what form the gratitude came? So what did you feel?
Like I felt that I am not able to manage my whole single life, okay, only one person's life at this point in time. However, when I look at my parents and see how they have been managing everyone, including my grandparents, okay, also, which I forgot to mention, all right, and how they were managing and juggling up with 3 kids, grandparents, and everything at the same time, okay, I really felt that, okay, fine, that this has been something which they have been doing it for long, and We as a kid, like, I'm not sure about my siblings if they still happen to have this consciousness or not, okay, but what I said that I as a kid never happened to thank them, that they have done a brilliant job in juggling up all the aspects of their life at the same time, managing their personal lives and our lives. One was when you're feeling gratitude towards someone, even for smallest of the act, directly, indirectly, you have to appreciate it and say thanks at the same time. You don't have to wait for a perfect moment to define that. And secondly, if you think that by mistake you have done something wrong and you are aware about the same, you have to instantly say that you are sorry for the same. So these two words got incorporated into the life so much that even if I was using any public transport, I'm not sure if the bus driver or the bus conductor would have heard it also so many times, or they would have understood it also or not, okay, or any of the public transportation mode we have used, because metro was not in 2007 into the Delhi and all, okay. So I used to say thanks. That became a conscious habit.
So are you saying that the thanks or the sorry actually didn't come from the heart, it just became a habit?
No, it actually started coming from the heart. Previously, if I talked about, that prior to this conscious efforts and everything, okay, that even if I was not sorry to someone at times and a situation demands it, okay, fine, say sorry and finish it off and move on. I would say, okay, fine, I think I'm at mistake and I'm sorry about everything and move on. However, 2007 onwards, it has not been like that.
So 2007, what changed? So now, so you say that first I need to say sorry and move on. So what happened in 2007?
Realization. That changed. That you actually started to realize, okay, fine, that at times when you are wrong and you try to understand all these things from a third person's perspective, who is not into that situation also. And had it been, I'll just give you an example of a situation, okay. I have been fighting with someone for certain reasons. That person has happened to have their own logic. I happen to have my own logic. But when I move out from that person's perspective, from my perspective, and I stand into a third person position, looking at all these things from somewhere else, okay, and I realized that, okay, fine, I was the one who was at the wrong place and the other person was trying just to rectify that thing. So that moment, the realization happened, and then you say that, okay, fine. And all these things are happening inside your mind, okay. You are fighting over there, and all of a sudden it clicks into your mind, okay, fine, this is the overall scenario, this was the overall concept, and I'm wrong. So why am I fighting even after being wrong? And in that moment, post this realization, you say that, okay, fine, I think that I'm the one who is speaking the wrong things and doing the wrong things, and I'm extremely sorry for that.
So linking all this back to what you were originally saying, so how this all links to what you were saying in the beginning?
See, when you realize that it's your mistake and everything, okay, and the other person is trying to rectify you, you develop a sense of gratitude. Okay, fine, the other person was trying to improvise me. And that's how the gratitude comes into the picture.
But for that kind of realization, you have to be in a receiving model.
That's true.
You cannot have that realization. You cannot be in a receiving model.
But when that realization happens, you start viewing the things from a neutral point of view.
Neutral point of view means?
Neutral point, like I was talking about the third person.
But not your, not theirs, but...
not mine, not the other person's, yeah, but somebody who is living at the complete situation.
Yeah. Okay.
So that would be the neutral point of view.
But with neutral point of view, you are still trying to understand the second point of view only. Although you are saying neutral point of view, but your intention is to understand the other person's point of view.
I didn't get your question, Satya.
So you are talking about, like, let's say, one your point of view and one point of view of the other person.
Right.
So you are in a conflict, and now you are saying that I need to assume a neutral point of view to understand the other person's point of view.
Right.
But you are still not really going in neutral point of view. You are just dropping yours and trying to understand the other person's point of view.
In a way, yes.
Yeah. For that, I'm saying that you first need to be in a receiving mode. You cannot do it if you're not in a receiving mode. The reason is that you can try to understand another person's point of view, but until you are in a receiving mode, you will still color it with your point of view.
Right.
It is not possible. It's impossible to understand another person's point of view if you look at it from the distance.
So what do you suggest can be done to improvise this further?
I will say that I think it's the receiving mode only that you can adopt first. Without that, it's not possible.
Okay.
So if you remember that we talked about action versus intention.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only saying what I follow is to understand that actions can be misinterpreted. Actions can be, I don't know, actions can be wrong, right, labeled right, wrong, or whatever. So you can label someone's actions in whichever way you want. But their intention is something that is hidden. Their intention is not seen. It's not obvious. And because it's not obvious, most of us don't really spend that kind of time and energy to go behind the scenes. It's just easy to look at someone's action and either appreciate or condemn
them. Right.
That's the easiest and fastest way. We have always been doing it. It can be out of habit. After understanding all these things, we will continue to do that. That can be out of habit. So, first and foremost thing is to overlook the action and look at the intention. That what was the intention of that person to take that action. Forget about the action.
Okay.
Until
so that is to look.
Until you sync yourself with someone's intention, you cannot. You cannot. It's just I don't know how many words I can use, but it's not possible.
Okay. And how exactly you get to know the intentions? How do you understand those intentions?
Well, okay, so again, you have to come from, as I said, receiving mode. And what receiving mode means is a question that you can ask is what is the love, compassion, or care part that we don't see here. In whichever context it is, you can see that. So I'm here, everything we are assuming that we are interacting with people who are trustworthy, ethical, all those kind of things, right? So we are not talking about people who are manipulative and have got hidden motives and agendas and things like that. So then none of this conversation applies.
Right.
So I am assuming that the person you are talking about, you trust that person. Now we continue to say trust. We continue to use this word, but you trust them on their actions or you trust them on their intentions. That is first thing you plan.
And I never thought that both these can be differentiated on the basis of action and intention.
Action is when you see someone. So I gave you an example in last time about one of my friends who asked me to put money into one business, and I did with them, but nothing has come out of that. So if I only look at the action, then I will condemn that person and will want to complain and get angry and say, you wasted my time, you wasted my money, what a crap thing, and don't do this up next time and all that. I can condemn and say, like, you should have done your homework properly, you should have done your preparation, you should have looked into this, you should have. I can just keep going on with these should lists. That is how I trust or don't trust someone based on the action. And then I can conclude this person is not trustworthy. I can't trust this person. Okay? That's one way. Second way is I look at the intention of this person to say, when he came to me about this, did he really want me to fail? Did he really want me to lose my money and all that? Was his intentions that bad? So I then look at that and just ignore what just happened for a minute and look beyond it and then see that was he trying to do that? Was his intention? So then what does my heart say? If my heart says no, his intentions were pure. He wanted to help. He saw that was a good opportunity and he asked me for it. So that is how I go by intention. That is how I build trust on intention. So it is my choice whether I look at someone's action or look at someone's intention. And then what do I base my trust on? Because every time, if I base my trust on actions, then actions always, they are up and down. Today I am doing this, tomorrow I am doing something else. Today I say this, tomorrow I say something else. My actions will continue to change. Then your trust will fluctuate as well because of that. If you continue to base your trust on my actions and my words, you will never be centered. You will always be fluctuating because I am fluctuating. And then you to make sure that the trust is not fluctuating, you will put pressure on me that I shouldn't fluctuate. One day I say this, one day I say that, one day I do this, the other day I do that. Then you want me to stop doing that. You want me to be consistent. Pick a side. Pick one way of doing things. And that puts pressure on me. Your criteria to trust me on the basis of my action. It's not my criteria.
Right.
Then it's a pressure on me to perform same way all the time, which is just not possible for any human being to do. But if my intentions fluctuate, that is something that is what at least I will go. If someone's intentions are fluctuating, then I will decide that can I trust this person or not. If the intentions are consistent, if the intentions stay the same, the person always have care at the core of all their actions, or friendship or whatever, like good. They think good about me or they want to do good for me. If I can see that, if I feel that, that is enough.
Right.
And there is no, I can't really teach you how to do that exactly. I don't know how to teach that. I'm saying how I do it, and it's a very feeling-based, sensory-based kind of. It's very intuitive in nature. I think only experience can teach you this. You just have to do it.
Likewise, if we are talking to someone, not in a professional terms, specifically onto the personal front and all, at times we try to find out, like I'm talking about me, at times I try to find out, does this person have any kind of ulterior motive that all of a sudden, out of blue, that person has started conversing with me for whatever reasons. That's not coming in the front at the moment, but could be a possibility that later 3 months, 6 months down the line, it will be into the picture.
Yeah.
Because that is not a consistent behavior of that person.
Correct. Correct. So yeah, that could be one, that someone behaves in a certain way all the time, but all of a sudden they behave in a different way, and then you get suspicious. Like, I don't know how come you become so nice all of a sudden, or you were so nice and now you're not nice, and like that. So a sudden change in behavior we can pick these things up because they are very easy for us to pick. They are obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And because they are easy and obvious, most of us don't want to do much work beyond that. So it's easy to just base our conclusions on those things. It is too much hard work, I tell you. It's not easy. All that I'm saying is just like, I'm just saying it like this, but it's very hard work. It's not easy to continue to look beyond. Sometimes you don't even want to look beyond.
Right.
It's very, very much hard work. Yeah. But if you want to really get good at this, then that's hard work. Or if you continue to do, then one day you become good at it.
A consistent effort is required to do this continuously.
Continuously ask that question, that what is the compassion or love or care that is there behind this action which I don't see.
Mm-hmm.
That is one guiding question for me at least. And it could again be your perspective on this. Some people could be very, very good in terms of manipulating and appearing to have good intentions and all that. Once again, you will know. So you have to burn in this. I have burnt a lot. All that I am telling you has not come cheap and just by that. I've lost relationships because of that. I've lost money because of that. I've lost time because of that. It doesn't come cheap. You have to lose. You have to burn. That's the only way. This is not something I can just give it to you.
At times, what I feel
I don't want to give it to you. I'm just saying it's not transferable. Nobody can give it to you. We can only tell you what we have done.
Right. Another thing, what I feel that I'll start with my own example. Okay, I have been talking about me very much upfront, openly, and everything as such. Okay. However, when I see at the people around me, okay, they are not much vocal. In before you guys continue, I was thinking of one moment. It's about intentions, right? So you spoke that we should. I mean, I don't know the content of it. Honestly, I joined late, but just the one thing which came in my mind, which I wanted to ask you since long, is intention we can find out. As you said, we should go for intentions of someone. But then it is again on us, right? For example, in your example of that investment somewhere, and then was that intention, what was that person's intention to make you lost really or cheat on you? But then how you will understand what was his intention? Because it might be the thing that, yes, he wanted you to get loss of some rupees or something like that. It's again on your heart, your mind, that how you are taking it. Otherwise, I mean, it is again on your thinking, your situations, your perspective towards the incident. Is it really someone else's intention?
I understand what you're asking, and that's a good question. So, as I said, that my first and foremost thought or question in my mind is that where is the care, love, compassion in this act? Right? I first have to drop the idea that I am victim here. unless I stay in the victim mode, even if I try to understand another person's point of view, I can't. That's what I was telling Pragya also. That to understand a second, she was using the word third or neutral perspective. So that's fine. We can call it third or neutral perspective. But what it really means is that I have to drop my perspective. I have to drop my story that I am the victim here. So until I continue to question that, that I'm the victim, how is this and that, I can't. So the moment I drop that story that I'm the victim, I ask myself that where is the care here? Where is the love, compassion, care in this whole situation that I don't see? Then only I can start looking back at the details of the events. So if I look back at this, then he also invested money with me. So if I say if he had the intention that I lose my money, then why would he do that with me? He would. So we both did it together, this whole thing, and he's as much stuck as I am. And also I know him. So there is a history. We know each other for almost 10 years. And he doesn't do those kind of things. He's a very ethical person himself. I know him. We're very good friends. Live close to each other. So yeah, there is history, and I have to look at that history by first dropping my story. Because if I continue to hold on to my story, I will then very easily pick up incidents that will make me look like, oh yeah, but this also happened, that also happened. Once again, I will continue to pick actions of someone to justify that I am the victim here. So until I am ready to drop that story that I am the victim here, I cannot go to the intention part. That is not possible. That's the short answer to your question. I have to drop my story, and I have to start looking at that the perspective of the other person. Otherwise, not possible. Otherwise, I'll pretend to do that, but I'm still I'm still looking at his actions or intentions from my state of being a victim. I still haven't dropped the story, but I'm pretending that I'm trying to understand this person. It's not going to work. Doesn't work. At least so doesn't work for me. I don't know. You guys can try yourself whether that works for you. Doesn't work for me. Does that answer your question in any way, Swati?
Yeah.
Okay. Pragya, you can continue. You were saying, and you just got dropped.
Right, but I again reconnected. It's fine. Whatever you're saying has been right. I also wanted to cite an example into the same, which most of us are, I don't know if anybody is working and if they are going through this kind of a situation, that the companies are doing reductions into the salaries or doing the layoffs and everything as such. We are just looking at the action perspective, but we do not know the actual intentions behind it. So if somebody has to understand how would they do it into such cases. Let's say if someone has been employed with the same organization for last...
Just interrupt you for a minute here, and something just came to my mind right now. You remember your school friends, right? You had we all had school friends, and we are still connected to many of them.
Right.
Why were those bonds so strong? We used to fight with each other so much, and we used to steal each other's lunch, and we used to do pranks on each other. We used to do so much, yet we are all connected. Why? what is the base of that bond?
Pure intention.
Because we know that we are there for each other, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Although we were fighting, although we would probably like I had fights with my best friends, and sometimes we beat each other so much that blood is come out, and all that kind of thing has happened and all that still. But now, as we have grown up, we have completely based our trust on actions. If that would happen now, I would never even speak to that person again. Isn't it?
That's so true.
As kids, we base all our trust on intention. We know that whether we are fighting, whether we are doing this or that, we are there for each other. We even told lies for each other, covered each other in school with parents and this and that, and we've done so much. Only because we felt that we are destined. That intention of being a best friend, the intention of being good friends to each other was the core. Everything else on top, pranks, fights, arguments, this, that, whatever, was nothing that actually diminished that bond. Because we don't have to prove to each other all the time that you still trust, and I still trust that you are my best friend, although we had a fight, and although we had this, although we had that. There was no such thing as reconfirming, reassuring, continue to say or display that we are still there. This is you fight, you do whatever arguments, and 2 days later you still playing. And even our parents were fed up with all that. At a point, they will also not get involved in the fight. They'll say, I know you will fight, and then next day you are going to get back, and then they also don't want to get involved after a while.
This is really a good example.
None of that happens now. That's the problem. And this is the reason why that reassurance of trust and all that is required, because we have based the trust on such fluctuating criteria. We need to be reassured all the time.
I would like to add one more point over here. Like whatever the fights and everything you were talking about, the childhood friends and all, okay. Whatever the thing was coming into anyone's mind, they were vocal about it, and they used to express it freely without thinking about that, okay, I might be misunderstood. I might not be, like, the other person might not be able to understand me the way I am trying to explain it to them. So this was also one of the factors. But as we grow up, we intend, or maybe like unconsciously, we stop doing that. We are not much vocal about how exactly we feel, so that should not be stopped.
Although we have, ironically, we attend more communication trainings and all that as we are adults than we are kids, and yet we are so poor in communication with all this. Because the thing is that we rely on words. We rely on reassurance. We never based our trust on something that was core and that was solid to begin with, and this is the reason why it shakes all the time. And this is the reason why there is so much need for constant reassurance, talking, approving, appreciating, validation. All that is required because the whole thing is based on such a shaky ground. and no amount is enough. It's just tiring for everyone involved. I'm sure that as much as you, like when you have to do it to another person and reassure and all that, it becomes tiring for you also, because at some point it feels like a blame also. It feels like that your intentions are continuously under question and you have to continuously validate it, that your intentions are still good just because you did a bad action. You come under scrutiny all the time. That is tiring. And unfortunately, you can imagine if we are talking about this in our personal relationships, then we are no different at work. We are still the same person. It's not that in personal life I behave like this and when I go to work my criteria are totally different. I bring the same criteria, I bring the same person to work also. And now you can imagine, let's say you have 400 people coming to work with that intention, with that kind of thing, where they are basing their trust on each team member based on the actions and all that. And when mistakes are made or when things are done, then it's always a shaky ground. And perhaps you as the HR person has to be at the brunt of it all the time to resolve all these things. But if you are not aware of this, then you also don't know what to solve here. It's just never-ending complaints and never-ending issues, and you just feel tired after a while as well. There's so much happening and so much coming. Everyone playing on the shaky ground and complaining about the shaky ground and not even aware that they're playing on the shaky
ground.
Right. There's another dimension. Look at this also. There is shaky ground and it can't be trusted, but at the same time there is a ground which you can trust, and that's actually the journey of being mindful. Because if you can't trust this, then what else? And I think this is where most people start finding the meaning of life and existentialism or whatever you call it, because it's not different than our day-to-day life. It's just very much here. In every day, in every transaction, there is a question on trust and where you base it. And what Sachin is talking about, that he has an intuitive sense of intention. I feel very strong, especially because you also live in Delhi. We come to know if a man is standing next to us in a public transport, if this person has good intentions or bad intentions, and it's a very intuitive sense. Also, all the more because women have to develop it given the circumstances we live in. And I feel in all my solo trips of towards the north of India, whether except Himachal, I have always been in alert mode. Himachal is the only place where I felt completely safe, as good as Maharashtra or any other place. But that sense, you just know how to do it in a certain situation. Now the idea is to expand it to other areas of life and try to sense the same way which we have already developed. So it's like you've developed creativity in cooking, but now you have to develop creativity in doing HR work or accounting for that matter. I know it sounds very different, but actually the seed is the same. And yeah, I mean that's how I think I see it, to expand my sense of getting there slowly, one by one, especially things which trigger you and which you don't like. I think that's where it needs all the attention.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and Swati and Pragya, both for your answer. You were saying how to develop. So yeah, I think this is not a technique. There is nothing that we can actually give you as such, but this is about expanded awareness. This is about building that mindfulness, that emotional intelligence, being in the field, observing, burning, sometimes losing. That's only. That's
also the sense of sensing intention comes as a byproduct of being mindful of the process. So mindfulness, when it's practiced in different ways, so you might question once in a while that maybe mindful eating, if someone is doing that, like we do these experiments that you can just be mindful in 10 minutes of your lunch, just one meal, 10 minutes, and you'd be like, how this is even connected to me being more trustful or being able to sense, but actually it is, because it helps you develop your subconscious stronger, and then you're just stronger in all fields, everywhere. It's not one place you're stronger. So this is like a byproduct of the process of mindfulness. More trust, more sense, more intuitive sense of other people's intentions, and more trust for oneself also. For one to be knowing the intentions and still trusting, I feel it takes a lot out of us to trust ourselves in our own mind. Yeah, okay, I know that there is a problem, but I still want to go ahead and trust, and I think that's a lot of work. And that work happens when you have a very strong muscle in mindfulness. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring it all together to see what we can do.
I also think that it's not that work happens as in like that, but when you know the other person has good intentions, then it motivates you also to go beyond. If you don't know, or if the other person hasn't got good intentions, then there is no point putting that much work in. You wouldn't want to invest so much time and energy with someone whose intentions are questionable. So once the intentions are not questionable, then only you can look beyond. Then only you can fight and argue and play pranks on each other and tell lies to others and this and that. You do all those silly things that you have done when you were kids, and yet the bond is strong, because the bond was always based on that we are best friends. That intention, that announcement was there, that we are best friends, is what even our parents recognized after a while, that we know that you guys will fight and all that, and you sort it out yourself. Don't come to us. Does what we talked about link back to your gratitude point that you were making in the beginning?
Having doing this call for almost, I think this is my second week or so, every time any topic we pick up and the conversations we happen to have, okay, I always get a new perspective. And this is the most I like about this conversation.
Great. Very glad to know that.
That was the intention of our conversations as well. And I tell you that most of the conversations, although we are saying these things, but sometimes these things are a revision for us as well.
Yeah, it's definitely very enriching for us.
So it's both ways.
And I also think thank you for trusting us with this process and coming here and sharing. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Pragya.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Swati is not here, but thanks, Swati, for joining. I think she got disconnected. So, all right.
Sure.
See you guys tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.